Ronald Reagan, an astrological portrait by Ciro Discepolo. In 1941, Hollywood actor Ronald Reagan starred in the film Crimes Without Punishment. His part involved a particularly dramatic scene. He was supposed to wake up after an operation and, realizing he no longer has his legs, ask, "Where is the other part of me?" But to turn the question around, what is the first part of Reagan? We are in reality faced with a trichotomy: actor, politician, athlete. At least that was Ronald Reagan, known as Dutch and Ronnie, as a young man. And now, which of the three prevailed? How much of the actor and athlete is left in him? If you peel away his skin, if you remove his prosthetics and bleach his hair, if you take away his contact lenses and his eternal smile, what is left of Reagan? But above all, if you deprive him of the support of the powerful promotional and technical machine that sustains him, what will become of him? When analyzing Reagan, one cannot forget the very particular American reality, where every man, like everything else, becomes a product to be sold, to be promoted. They say his collaborators tremble when he speaks without a sheet of paper in front of them, and before having listened to the exceptional staff of experts in every field who follow him everywhere, along with dozens of bodyguards. The makeup, the acting, the pouting, and the manipulated joys are part of his being president. When he reads a speech, you will see him slowly turn his head to one side and his face darken as he delivers yet another condemnation of the foreign policy of the Soviet Union. Don't be fooled. It's all written in the script, in the play he has in his hands. His brother, when he first proposed him for political candidacy, recommended him this way: "Put him on video and I guarantee he'll be successful. We tried it with soap." Here's the point. Can a soap man rule the world? Can you imagine Paolo Ferrari, the man behind Dosh detergent, in the White House? However, we must consider the whole thing and not get carried away by just this aspect of the issue. Just as Americans are not ex-Irish, ex-Quakers, and ex-indigenous Africans, but a very specific ethnic group with its own characteristics, so Reagan is a politician in every sense, aside from the folklore that defines him and his acting career. If anything, criticisms can be based on other factors, such as, for example, the dissonant Sun-Moon-Jupiter triangle between Aquarius, Scorpio, and Taurus, which in his horoscope indicates the danger of mental inflation, uncontrolled gestures and actions exceeding limits, and excess in the broadest sense. This is a very serious factor for a man who governs the fate of the world. As a child, it took Reagan many years to realize he was nearsighted, and we wonder, how long would it take him today to realize he was wrong? The above triangle would persist, even if his birth time were not the one reported here. According to Lois Rodden, a well-known American astrologer, Ronald Reagan was born in Tampico on February 6, 1911, at either 1:20 a.m. or 2:30 p.m. We opted for the former time as it seemed more reliable, but even in the latter case, the triple aspect in question would not change. If anything, if we wanted to attempt a correction, we would move the time back just enough to make Saturn appear in the 5th house, and not the 6th. Reagan starred in 54 films from 1937 to 1954, never as a leading man, and this frustration seems worthy of being explained by Saturn in the 5th house. On the general success front, however, Jupiter's dominance at the ascendant is fully justified by the biography of a self-made man As a young man, as mentioned, he was an athlete who stood out more for his commitment than his talent, and today he owes much to his athletic mettle if, at 73, he can still work at the pace he knows how to do. Reagan also remained involved in sports after school when he worked as a sports commentator for a time. The Sun in the third house and the Mercury-Uranus conjunction on its cusp. Communication in the broadest sense, referring to these third house values, is one of his strong points. This was evident, for example, on the eve of the 1980 presidential elections that would have consecrated him president at the end of the election campaign, when the electoral estimates had him almost level with his opponent, while after the direct televised clash between him and Carter, he truly triumphed. Critics said then that Carter had been more concrete in terms of arguments, but that Ronnie had shone on a personal level. If the same rule applied in our country, Peniella would have been sitting at the Quirinale Palace long ago. But no amount of malice can withstand the results. Reagan is skyrocketing in every poll, and this is largely because since his administration, the stock market has stabilized at record levels, the dollar rules the world over, and U.S. inflation has dropped dramatically. It's a hard-line policy, no state welfare, no subsidies to private individuals, a free internal market. It seems that this policy, also experimented with in England by Thatcher, has borne fruit in recent times. What remains to be explained is how Reagan managed to achieve so much while drastically increasing military spending. Today, he is seen as a reactionary conservative, but his supporters remember that when he was governor of California, he passed a very advanced abortion law. Indeed, his political history can be summed up in a few sentences. As a young man, Reagan was a staunch liberal Democrat, New Deal. Then between 1948 and 1952, he switched parties, switching to the Republicans and campaigning around the slogans of family, work, community spirit, peace, and freedom. It was the period of his fierce anti-communism when he said, "We are here on the only island of freedom left in the world. Either we defend freedom here, or we will no longer know where to take refuge." Then suddenly, as with so many other sudden and important turns in his life, we must not forget that he is an Aquarius. By running for governor of California, he gave himself a more moderate image of a man of the center, anti-dynodine and tolerant. Today he is the man we all know, who doesn't let anything pass under his nose, who warns and threatens, who wants a strong America again, and who, when necessary, even sends Marines to Grenada. He doesn't give a damn about sovereign states, about Russians and Cubans taken prisoner as if he were at war with the two communist countries. He doesn't give a damn about the fuses he lights that could one day ignite the conflagration of the great nuclear holocaust. Some might say, how can a man who, as a lifeguard, saved 67 people from drowning, kill the world? Pluto in the 8th house opposite Mars could do both. Astrologically, hopes lie in Mars in Capricorn, which ensures a certain rational control over the will. But we don't know if it will be enough at the right time. If this is indeed his horoscope, then the Mars-Pluto opposition develops between the 2nd and 8th houses, which suggests a destructiveness linked primarily to financial interests. A friend of ours always said men are judged by money. This phrase, which we fully embrace, also applies to our Dutchman. He personally, thanks precisely to his Mars in the 2nd house, has made a lot of money. $2 million according to a Times estimate a few years ago. This same Mars came into play on March 30th, 1981, when young John Hinckley shot him with a bullet that pierced his left lung and lodged just inches from his heart. On that day, transiting Mars was square natal Mars. Repetitions are always very important in astrology, and so it will be useful in the future to observe the synodic revolutions of this planet to try to analyze the president's situation year by year. However, generally speaking, we don't feel like making any predictions, given the partial uncertainty regarding our cowboy's birth time. In just 10 months, in November, there will be new presidential elections, and we don't know whether or not to hope for his re-election. We do, however, focus our hopes on one point, that Reagan, continuing his career as an actor president, will never have to play Dr. Strangelove.